Hi, everyone. This is John Daly. I am back after a 2 month hiatus with a brand new episode of the Daly Express podcast. I should clarify that I was not pressured off the air by angry viewers or network affiliates or FCC Chairman Brandon Carr. I was just focusing on some other projects, but I did want to make a big splash with the return of the Daily Express. So I went out and I started looking for a big name celebrity to have on as my guest. My old buddy Robert De Niro, he offered to come on, but I had to tell him, thanks, Bobby, but I need someone a little bit bigger. Charlie Sheen, he's been out there making the rounds lately. He said he would do it, but he just didn't strike me as being edgy enough for this podcast. But then I got the call back I had been praying for. Kimberly freaking Ross from the Washington Examiner and Magnolia Tribune. She said yes, and I'm very excited to have her on today. Kimberly, welcome back to the Daily Express podcast.
Thank you so much for having me again, and I'm so glad it worked out.
You cut out. What'd you say there?
I said thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad it worked out.
Oh yes, absolutely. Your people got in touch with my people, and it came together. So, Kimberly, it's always a pleasure to have you on, which is what your agent actually told me to say. But I wanted to start off with a topic that I know you're very passionate about and are chomping at the bit to talk about in great detail. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's meeting with top military brass earlier this week. What are your thoughts on that, Kimberly? I have to explain to people. So Kimberly told me specifically not to bring up this topic because she hadn't followed the story very closely.
I haven't, no.
I know, so that's why I did. And in my defense, Kimberly, you should have known that by telling me you didn't want to talk about something, that this was only going to encourage me to ask about it.
True.
Yeah, so it's really kind of your fault when you think about it.
It is, yes.
Okay, sorry about it. So let's get to the real first topic here. This is one I know you are prepared to talk about because you recently wrote a piece on it for the Washington Examiner. It's candidate quality. The midterms are coming up next year. There are a lot of seats up for grabs. In addition to all the House seats, which are up every 2 years, there will be 35 Senate seats and almost 40 governorships. The GOP is largely in the driver's seat right now. They hold the presidency in both branches of Congress. But that has historically been a disadvantage when it comes to midterm elections. Voters tend to want to punish the party that's in power. So with that in mind, you argue that candidate quality is really going to matter for the GOP next year, going into the primaries, especially in a Texas Senate race. Can you talk about that a bit?
Sure, yeah, this was a feature for the magazine, Examiner magazine, and I wanted to focus on just candidate quality in general, but specifically the race between Ken Paxton, the Attorney General in Texas, and also John Cornyn, who is the incumbent senator for Texas. Paxton is trying to take Cornyn's seat, and as of the last time I checked the polling, Paxton is still ahead, but Cornyn has gained a lot of ground in recent months and everything. But the piece about candidate quality, when it comes to Ken Paxton, and I'm sure you're very familiar with him and other people are too, he has a very messy past, recent past, and even further back several years ago. He was almost impeached and kicked out of the seat that he holds in Texas, but he was not, because Republicans rallied to his side and kept him in office. And I mean, Eric Erickson has talked about this on Twitter and other people have elsewhere and everything, but Ken Paxton should not still be in office because he has so many skeletons in his closet in terms of dealing with fraud, issues where he will tell someone or tell people in the state that certain investments are bad and that they're ruining the pockets of Texans, and then come to find out he has a lot of money in those investments, in those areas and everything. So he is not generally an honest individual. And also, I mean, you could talk about his personal life. His wife recently filed for divorce on biblical grounds. I think you can figure out what she's talking about there. And my piece is about how there's no perfect candidate. And I don't think anyone who acts like their favorite politician is perfect should really be listened to, because none of these people are perfect. There's a lot of issues in their past or their present and everything. But I think our basic standards should be that they don't have a bunch of legal issues or personal issues going on for while we are supporting them or going to vote for them to be in office. And I don't think that is too much of an ask for voters to look at other people who are better suited morally and more principled in their politics or in their personal life. I don't think we're asking too much to shift focus and support people who are better equipped for that. And I wrote in my piece, and I feel like a lot of, and I'm sure you will agree with this, a lot of people in the GOP, they just want to win instead of win well. And my definition of winning well is winning with candidates who you feel have upheld standards and principles and have a moral compass that's still functioning. And voting for them and them winning is winning well. And this is something that a lot of people I feel like don't agree with me on. But I think if you are choosing candidates who do not have those things in place, then you deserve to lose, because you, I hope, will learn a lesson the next time your candidate is up for, office. And I don't think a lot of people agree with me. I don't know if you do. You probably do. I don't know, because we have the same excellent opinions usually on these things. But I really think the lack of interest when it comes to requiring that candidates have these basic conservative standards and principles and morals in place, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we should be pushing that. And also in the piece I talked about, and I know you know these people, I talked about Dr. Oz when he was running and just what a joke of a candidate he was. I also talked about Herschel Walker, who he moved from Texas to the state he ran in because Trump wanted him to run. He was a terrible candidate. He didn't have a grasp of the issues, and he also had a lot of, and I'm not like making light of this or anything, but he had a lot of mental issues that he even talked about, and even some domestic issues in his past with his ex-wife and everything, that he even admitted in his book that he wrote before he ran for office. And then Roy Moore, we know him,
Mm-hmm.
and how a lot of Republicans pushed him, even though he clearly had issues in his past when it came to sexual assault allegations with women who were younger than him. So I included those individuals in there as well, because in all of those races, all three of those candidates lost. And I feel like if we would have chosen better candidates, not candidates who just make a splash or Donald Trump liked or something, we could have had a better chance. I'm not saying Republicans would have won, but if they would have won, we could have said, well, there we have someone in office who we are proud of, who holds principles as important as we think they should be.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And as you mentioned, Paxton really is sort of a hot mess. I mean, he has been bailed out so many times by his fellow politicians. And I think what the way that the Republican Party is right now, though, he has what John Cornyn doesn't have, and that's ultra MAGA cred.
He does,
Cornyn's
yeah.
more of a like Cornyn's. I mean, he's kind of like a baseline MAGA kind
Mhm.
of guy. Um, and then yeah, but he's just Ken Paxton's just on the other part of that spectrum, and that's I think what a lot of primary voters, not voters in general, care about more than I think unfortunately, the conservative principles that you and I care about. And I see signs from time to time that maybe there's more people that prioritize the sort of stuff that we care about, here and there. But yeah, it's just when it comes to primaries, it seems like it really is whoever is the most devoted, the most enthusiastic about Trump does seem to have a leg up on their opponents.
And I don't think we've, in recent years, the last decade, I don't think the way that Republicans have sort of shown what they believe to be the most important is really going to help us in the future, because as we know, there were other candidates who were running for president, and Trump, he went to the top of the list, and Republicans have loved him ever since. And he's not going to be in office after his second term, hopefully. I mean, who knows?
Yes.
But just the mentality behind the whole Trump effect, like I can easily see JD Vance running with that whole thing and really playing to the MAGA base and stuff. So it remains to be seen how long that kind of flavor will last in the Republican Party. I think it will last for quite a while, because Republicans are like, we've been winning with it for a while now, and we should keep running with it. But I don't think it's the best in terms of, if we want to look at the other side and compare ourselves to Democrats and say, we're not just different because we have an R next to our name, but we're actually better in terms of values and principles and standards. And if we want to do that, we have to veer away from the Trump effect.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you bring up the point about they've been winning with it for a while, and I when I hear people say that though, it's just like I think back to between 2016 and 2020, the Republicans suffered the worst electoral defeats in like almost 70 years during that time. They lost the presidency, the Senate, the House. I mean, all directly because of Trump. And it took 4 years being on of Biden policy and Biden not knowing where he's at, all that stuff to even get people, the general electorate, to consider that again. So I don't know if it's so much about winning in an electoral sense, as it is just kind of winning in like a spirit sense or in a enthusiasm, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I guess it is what it is. But
Who knows how, like you've said at the beginning, midterms are historically bad for the party that's in power. And who knows how they will go a year from now. It could be very bad for the Republicans. And will they learn a lesson? Probably not, because they tend to not learn lessons. And I know people will say that means I'm a lefty or something, but no, I think Republicans should start learning these lessons. And I'm not so sure they will if they have a bad midterm next year.
Yeah, no, they never seem to, or haven't in a while. But I wanted to change gears here. So, in the wake of the terrible assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah, we've been hearing an argument from a number of right-wing influencers, in some cases directly, and in some cases sort of suggestively, that the political right in all of its various factions should overlook their differences and unite together to battle their common enemy, the left, who many people blame for Charlie Kirk's death. Some have been describing this as a no enemies to the right call to action. Kimberly, can you share your thoughts on this idea? It feels like it could be a little problematic.
Yeah, I think it is, just a tad problematic. No enemies to the right. How has that been going lately? I mean, because the people who are on the right side of the aisle, we have people like Tucker Carlson and Andrew Tate and Candace Owens and individuals like this. And especially Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, they have this pretty obvious raging anti-Semitism as one of their main things that they push. They're very distrustful of Israel and the fight in Gaza, and they have all these criticisms of Israel and Netanyahu, but not just base criticisms. They bring it to the conspiracy theory level. Candace Owens thinks that Charlie Kirk was perhaps assassinated because of a plot by Israel. It's just wild stuff. And Tucker Carlson, we know he's cozied up to Russia. He has all these anti-Semites on his show who spin these wild theories and everything. So those are just two examples. And I don't know if maybe the term no enemies to the right is appropriate. I don't know that I think of people on the right side of the aisle who are to my right are enemies, but I do think they are problematic in a lot of ways. And I don't think that we should shut our mouths when the people closest to us, our allies, our ideological allies, are sharing political ideas or cultural ideas or social ideas that are wrong, and in some cases outright lies. And I think we should speak up against that, and we should say something about it, because we're not going to improve our side unless we do. And people really tend to think, especially if you're on the right side of the aisle, if you do that, then you're just helping the left. Well, I've said this before. I already know I don't belong on the left side of the aisle. I'm a conservative. If you want to call me like a conservative centrist or something, some people like to use that term. I don't know if it applies to me so much, but I do know for sure I don't belong on the left side of the aisle. I don't vote for Democrats. I don't believe in leftism and the things that continue on further to the very far left, which is extreme progressivism. I know I'm not there. So why wouldn't I want to clean my house and improve it so I can feel better about what I'm supporting? And so maybe we can start winning. And again, like I've said earlier, winning well, not just succeeding at the polls, but actually putting people in there who should be there. So the no enemies to the right thing, I think that's a very lazy attitude. And we've people have talked about this a lot in the last week. Megyn Kelly, she said she didn't really want to criticize Tucker Carlson because he's a friend. And she said something like Candace Owens has a lot of, things going on and people are taking gratuitous shots at her, whatever. Well, that says to me that anti-Semitism, when Megyn Kelly calls it out on the left side of the aisle, anti-Semitism is not really the problem. Just anything on the left side of the aisle is the problem. If there's anti-Semitism on the right, Megyn Kelly doesn't really seem to care. I don't know that I would classify Megyn Kelly as an anti-Semite, but if there's an issue on the left side of the aisle that she is willing to call out, but not willing to call it out on the right side of the aisle, it's not a principal issue. It's just a political teams issue. And what's that? You're just a tribalist. And that's not much substance at all. So no enemies to the right. I don't buy into that. I know that makes me terrible, and people don't like that attitude.
No, that's not what makes you terrible, Kimberly. It's not. It's not just joke. You're great, Kimberly. But no, none of this stuff makes sense to me either. I don't understand how banding together with bigots and nutcases on the right helps destroy anything but brain cells and maybe your chance of being elected. I don't even understand the battleground that these people are talking about. Is it specifically about elections? Are we talking about social media warfare and these dorky collaborations with nuts on one side? I don't know. And maybe there's a big dance off that's planned to deal with this. I just don't know. But it's not about policies. A lot of the right wing influencers these days support leftist policies. I mean, Tucker Carlson is a prime example. I mean, he's pretty close to Elizabeth Warren on a lot of things. JD Vance is too, for that matter, but that's a different thing. But yeah, so none of this makes sense to me. I don't understand this alliance, what this alliance is supposed to even be. I just, in spirit and rah. I don't get it.
I guess that's what it is. And people have this idea of there's a big tent on the right and you should allow everything under the big tent. No. That's a terrible idea. If you have a big tent and everyone is allowed in there, do you see what's in your tent? It's not good stuff. I think you should be very selective. And I don't consider conservatives and Republicans to be the same. I think there's differences between the two and everything. And I understand that you want electoral victories, but this big tent approach to everything just because you think the left is evil and everything on the right is good, that's not reality in any way whatsoever. And you should be a little bit more selective and I again will say this, if you want to win well and not just win. But I don't think people like you and I are really good in terms of like being team players, because we have questions about these people who are standing next to us and we want to see improvement. And apparently improvement isn't a goal at all for far too many people on the right side of the aisle. They just want to beat the people on the left. And I think, frankly, that's pretty stupid.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you know this, Kimberly. I'm an Eagle Scout. I was a Boy Scout for many years as a kid. And there was stuff that got into the tent that we did not want there. You had wild animals, you had mosquitoes. It's okay to keep some things out of the tent. You don't have to just let anybody who wants to come into the tent. Right. That's just my tent theory.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah, we don't want those things in the tent.
That's right. So another Washington Examiner piece you recently wrote was titled, "What Do Women Gain by Hating Men?" Now, that headline could be taken a couple different ways, so I want to clarify that Kimberly did not make a case for what women would in fact gain if they decided to hate men.
Sure.
But you actually took the other side of that argument, and you talked about something called the bird's nest, which I thought was interesting. Can you tell people what that is and how it plays into the broader topic you wrote about?
Sure. Well, I would like to make clear that I don't come up with the headlines for my articles. So I read that and I liked it. But of course, people who just read the headlines are like, what does that mean? Why would that be the headline?
It's clickbait. It gets people interested. What's Kimberly talking about?
Exactly. No, the Bird's Nest is a women's only commune that this woman, I think she's like in her 60s, early 60s or something, came up with because she was single and retiring and she didn't want she had concerns about the cost of living and everything. And she wanted to establish a commune, to help share the costs and stuff. And at first it was just going to be like a mixed commune, whatever. But after going through the process, she decided to just have it be a women only commune. And there's about, I think, 12 little houses on this place called the Bird's Nest. And I wrote about it because she said in her interview. I forget what magazine interviewed her first, but she said that because there's no men, there's also no drama. Now, I think that is hilarious as a female because I know how females are, and I'm not saying men can't be dramatic because men are very dramatic, especially when it's like NFL season or MLB season. They're very dramatic. But women are perhaps a little bit well known for being dramatic and emotional when it comes to issues and
I'm not
dealing
sure
with.
what you're talking about.
You've never experienced this before. No. Dealing with other people. So the no men thing, sure, there's no men there, but no drama. I don't quite buy that. But her whole argument is because there's no men there, life is essentially better. Now, other than like the basic things, like if there's no men there, there will be no spiders killed and there will be no salsa jars opened. Like, who's going to open the salsa jars? I had trouble with that the other night. I had to wait for my husband to come home. Other than those things, just the suggestion that if you don't have men in your world, you have more opportunity or things are more harmonious. I think that just, like I've said before, that rejects reality because she actually said essentially that having a space where there's only women gives women the ability to succeed because if men were there, men would be succeeding. Now, as we all know, and as we've talked about, men and women have different strengths and abilities. Men will succeed in some areas, women will succeed in other areas. And it's okay to admit that men are better at some things and women are better at other things. And we all have strengths and weaknesses. So just kind of her main idea that a world without men is just a better world. I don't buy into that. And not just for like the hilarity of like we need them to do stuff that's like hard and like they can lift things and stuff, but just the attitude that men not in the world and like the whole future is female thing makes a better world. I don't buy that and I don't believe that. And that doesn't hold true in the real world where there are men and are women in professional spaces, in personal spaces, in families and stuff like that. So that's why I wanted to write about it.
See, I went through sort of a conversion while I was reading your piece because I must say that when you first started describing the bird's nest, my initial thought was why not instead call it the cougar's den instead of the bird's nest? But then, as soon as I thought that, I realized that me thinking that is probably why these women don't want to be around men.
Yes.
And so I was like, yeah, I was actually suddenly very sympathetic to the bird's nest, and I'm just going to say I'm very much on their side now because
Get
I
John
went through that
Daly
conversion.
Get John Daly out of there. We don't want him in the bird's nest. He's a problem.
No.
Yeah, no, it's, and I said in the piece, I don't care how people live. They can have a women-only commune, they can have a men-only commune, but don't act like your world is better because you've excluded like half of society. Sure, you may like it. There may be less drama than if there were like 20 or 30-year-old women there who are more prone to drama than the 60 to 80-year-old women who are there. But I mean, just like be realistic. Don't act like you've created this utopia. You haven't, and it's not going to last. And like I said, who's going to help you with the things like salsa jars or like things that are on like high shelves or like killing snakes or something? So
Yeah,
that's why
no.
we need men. That's the main reason we need men.
And your husband's very good. He's been coming up with a lot of good jokes lately that you've been sharing on Twitter. And so that's another talent that a lot of us guys have. We come up with these dad jokes that
Yes.
are very impressive to some.
Yes, he's been good at the dad jokes since he was like in his mid 20s, and every now and then he's like, share this one on Twitter, and then people love them, and then he thinks they're great, and I'm like, fine, I'll keep sharing them because people love them.
Yeah. No, and he's probably wants to workshop a few of them too, just to see
He
what the
does.
general response
Yes,
is. So
he
yeah,
does.
I can totally understand that. Um, so next, I'd like to talk about this is another topic you've written about lately. This is you've been writing a lot, Kimberly. This piece was for the Magnolia Tribune and it involved someone I know you deeply admire, the man with the tan, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh, Lord.
He is rumored, Kimberly. From what I understand, he is actually our Health and Human Services Secretary, and it turns out that he's
Unfortunately.
not only anti-vaccine, he's also anti-Tylenol, at least in its use by pregnant women.
Hmm.
He has suggested that it leads to autism in the womb. Kennedy actually got President Trump on board with this initiative, and public guidance has been changed as a result. But as many people have pointed out, there isn't actual science supporting this link between autism and Tylenol. Kimberly, is it possible that this was just sort of an idea that magically popped into Kennedy's head several years ago, perhaps as he was shoving a dead bear cub into the back of his car, or maybe decapitating a dead whale on a beach somewhere. It just sort of came to him. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you. Something that I'm sure popped into his head in recent years. But I think and again, I didn't vote for Trump. I've never voted for Trump. This is not shocking information, but I do think he made some good choices when it came to his cabinet. I like Marco Rubio. I don't agree, with everything he's done and said, but I do generally like him. I think he's very competent. He's good at what he does. I am not a huge fan of Tulsi Gabbard being in that position, but I think his worst selection was RFK Jr. as HHS secretary. I mean, the reason he's there is because he spoke highly of Trump. The guy is not a conservative. He's not a Republican. He was a Democrat. He probably still is a Democrat. He was a Democrat about 5 minutes ago. But he says nice things about Trump and he's in that position. No, but RFK's whole idea that he's going to make America healthy again, first of all, the person who's going to make your life better and you healthier is you. It's you. It's not RFK. You make your own choices about food and exercise and sleep and nutrition and like going to the doctor and everything. He's not going to make your life better. He's not going to make America healthier. He's just not. But then his crusade against medication and vaccines, he has a whole organization that he set up several years ago that their main focus is essentially saying vaccines for children are bad. So why would we want this guy to be the head of the HHS? But yeah, his thing with Tylenol. At Charlie Kirk's memorial, which I'm sure you know this too, that Trump got up there, and I think Erica Kirk did a great job, but then Trump got up there and, made it about himself a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And he said that I think it was the very next day, he said that we're going to share an answer to autism. Now, the next day, there was the press conference when RFK brought up that Tylenol, we believe, is a link that causes autism. That's not an answer to autism. That's something you think could perhaps maybe cause autism, even though there's no science to back it up. And the studies that have been done, the biggest study is the JAMA study, and I would have to share it on Twitter in a link or something. But when they studied children who were in the womb when their mothers took Tylenol, perhaps there was an increased risk for neurological differences and harm. But when they added the siblings, those children's siblings in there, the harm and the the neurological damage, it went away once you added siblings into the mix. Now that tells you that it's not Tylenol, that it's something other than Tylenol. And I don't have all the answers to autism, and I don't think the HHS secretary or Trump should act like they have the answer to autism. I think personally, based on the science that we have, it seems to me to be genetic. I don't think it's a vaccine issue. I don't think it's a Tylenol issue. But I think they really, most of all, I think they believe that they don't really have the answers, but they want to act like they have the answers because their whole push with making America healthy again is to get back at, big pharma and try to say that they're to blame for everything when I don't really think they are. And I included in the piece, and I think you read the piece. It was an excellent piece. No, I'm just kidding.
Very good, Kimberly. Well done.
No, but I really think the main push behind this and the big reason why RFK is kind of popular among, excuse me, the MAGA crowd is because people have this distrust of course, science and big pharma based on what we experienced during COVID. Now, I don't know about you. I got the COVID vaccine and I got a booster. I don't think everyone has to do that. It's, personal decision based on what you want to do. But I think a lot of people in the MAGA sphere hate what happened during the pandemic when it came to mandates or a vaccine that they thought was fast-tracked too much. And they're looking for big pharma and the healthcare community to be punished in some way. And so that is really the driving force behind RFK and his mission to find answers to things even when he doesn't really have answers, and just to kind of make the Republicans, the ultra MAGA Republicans, feel like something is being done to punish the people who caused problems or went too far when it came to governmental control during the pandemic. So that's what I really think is behind it. I don't think they've found any answers to anything. I think people just want to say, yay, we're getting back at big pharma, when you're not doing anything. You're just creating fear.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's what gets me is that RFK Jr., he keeps saying, whether it's on Twitter or in public opportunities, that he is following the science, but he's not. And it sort of reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen this old Dolph Lundgren sci-fi action movie from the early 90s, Kimberly. It was called I Come in Peace.
I've
Okay,
never heard of it.
okay, you're not alone. But so in the story, there was this scary alien guy who came from space, Kimberly, and he would walk into a room full of people and he'd say, "I come in peace" in English, and then he would just start shooting the crap out of everybody.
Huh.
There was a reason for it, but he would kill all these people, which of course would be the opposite of being peaceful.
Right.
And I think we're sort of looking at the same disconnect here. And it doesn't make any sense. There's this no, and I should explain. I think the reason that it was never really clear why he would say this. I don't know if it was the only words he knew in the English language, but at the very end, I'm gonna spoil. This is a little spoiler alert for people here. At the very end, Dolph Lundgren, against all odds, Kimberly manages to impale the alien on a pipe, and the alien, as he's stuck there and there's steam coming out of the pipe and all that stuff, he gives the one last "I come in peace." And Dolph Lundgren, as he's about to shoot him and finish him off, he says, "And you go in pieces." And I think that was the entire purpose of that. The title of the movie, the reason he kept saying that, so Dolph Lundgren could come in with a badass remark like that at the end. And I'm sure this is a very exciting story. I'm sure you appreciate me telling you about this movie, but it is pretty entertaining.
Well, I'm so sad now that I can't see the movie because it sounds like a great piece of cinema. But
Definitely.
I was going to say
Well, you,
about the
you you can see it, Kimberly.
I
I think
can.
they officially changed the name at one point to Dark Angel because I Come in Peace didn't translate well in different languages. So now it's Dark Angel. Definitely, you should probably watch it tonight. You should probably
That
get it on. I don't know if you can get it on streaming. Probably, maybe get an eBay DVD, get a DVD off of eBay or something. But you should definitely look
I
into it.
will rush right to that after we're done here. But
Excellent, excellent.
about the Tylenol thing, and I'm sure you've heard this too, one of the most dangerous things for women during pregnancy is fevers.
Hmm.
And if you get a fever, of course, the woman's body, I mean, she could go through, a lot and everything, but it can be very dangerous for the unborn child. And one of the only things that helps with fevers during pregnancy is Tylenol or acetaminophen, whichever you want to call it. Which Trump, I don't think, can say acetaminophen from what I heard, but that's a whole nother thing
In
entirely.
fairness, I've been saying Tylenol because I didn't want to have to try and say the other one. So I do empathize with Trump on that in that
That's fine.
respect.
I'll let that one go. But women who have fevers during pregnancy, it is more dangerous for the woman and the child, the unborn child, to experience her going through these stages of a fever than it is any sort of data they have on Tylenol neurologically harming the child. And so Tylenol helps a woman control the fever, brings the fever down, helps that not get to a point to where it's very dangerous. So telling women that they shouldn't take Tylenol during pregnancy, and if they have a fever, I don't know what they're supposed to do, just deal with it or something. Um, I don't know if you're like this, but I don't really take medical advice from the government. I usually take it from my doctor and nurses and healthcare providers who know my history and actually know medicine and science. So yeah, I don't think pushing that as like what women should or shouldn't be doing is helpful. And I don't think if fevers are harmful to the unborn child, you should be telling women they can't take Tylenol to help with those fevers. So it's bad messaging. It's not the science. I wouldn't even say it's bad science because the science isn't there. But again, it's just a big push to try to get back at big pharma.
Yeah, it's another angle that I've seen some people point out is that children, women that have had babies that have autism, who took Tylenol while they were pregnant. That's probably getting a lot of people needlessly feeling guilty that they did that, and it's based on, again, this quackery from RFK Jr.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, and he should not be in office. He should not be in that position. I don't think Trump is going to kick him out anytime soon. And I just think there's a lot of damage that he's going to do as he's in office. I hope he's not in that position for the entire Trump term, but I'm sure he will be because Trump likes him. He says stuff that Trump supports. He says things nice about Trump. So it's just it's not good for the country after we have just had a pandemic to talk about things in this way. I think science should be supported and followed. I think data matters way more than talking points and narratives from either side. And I think people lose sight of that because, again, they want to talk politics and play politics more than anything.
I think it was, and I'm hope I'm crediting this correctly, but I think it was Matt Lewis who had made the point that Trump actually may feel a stronger sense of loyalty to Kennedy than his other cabinet members because Kennedy, during the election, he was running as well, and then he backed out, and then he endorsed Trump. And there was at that time, a bit of a shift in the polls that where his voters went to Trump, and it was a close enough race where maybe there was a difference that was made. People who otherwise would have not voted, or maybe would have split the vote, went from Kennedy to Trump, and so that's even more discouraging for those of us who understand how bad of a fit Kennedy is in that position. As far as the chances go of him being removed.
Yeah, I agree that I feel like he thinks he owes something to Kennedy, or that's why he even has Kennedy on board. Because if Kennedy hadn't run as he did, his failure of a campaign, which he was, I think, independent, wasn't he, when he was
Yes.
running? If he hadn't even run, would Trump be picking him for this position? I mean, I don't really think so. I wouldn't guess that he would be on Trump's radar unless the course of events happened where he ran and then he said nice stuff about Trump and then he pulled out and he suspended his campaign and like support went to Trump and everything. So yeah, I think he feels like he owes something to Kennedy. And I also think, of course, the Kennedy name, the decades old Kennedy name that's been in American politics, and people have very, very strong opinions about the Kennedys on both sides of the aisle. I really think that plays into it a little bit, but I do think the biggest part is he thinks he owes something to Kennedy for what he did with running and dropping out and then like the support given to him. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I do think, Trump puts a lot of emphasis on celebrity, and the Kennedy name is obviously very, very famous. And it's funny to people like you, really even me. I mean, I'm quite a bit older, as you like to point out. I'm quite a bit
A
older than you.
lot older,
Yes,
yeah.
much older. And even I am too young to really understand the whole Kennedy thing, why
Yeah.
people care. I remember when I was little, the son that ended up dying in an airplane accident, but people were just so obsessed. The National Enquirer was so obsessed with him, and I don't. Why does anybody care about any of this? And I was too young to appreciate it. I get the whole Camelot and everything that it was for older people understood, but yeah. Anyway, but obviously Trump is quite a bit older than I am, so for him that probably plays something into it.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to change something to a funner topic, Kimberly. Now you
Mhm.
recently met someone who I've long been a fan of. His name, and I hope I'm pronouncing, is it Daniel Hanan or Hannon?
Daniel Hannan.
Hanan. Okay, I for some reason thought it might be Hanan, but he is a former politician from the UK. He's a member of the Conservative Party over there. I think he's even a lord, if I understand correctly.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so he's a very principled guy, an amazing speaker, an amazing debater. He's also a very snappy dresser, from what I've seen, Kimberly. But you had a run-in with him lately. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was at the Mississippi Center for Public Policy event where he spoke last Wednesday. And he, of course, he does speaking engagements around the country. He loves America. And I love his passion for our country. He's passionate about the UK and the USA. But he was here giving a speech or a talk, I should say, basically about liberty and about just our country and the freedom that we prize and our enthusiasm for protecting freedoms, and especially for someone who comes from the UK, where there's an assault on the free speech issue right now, and there's a lot of problems as far as that's concerned. He has a lot of things good to say about our country, as many flaws and problems as we have. He really encouraged the crowd to support the principles of liberty and free speech and conservatism and just continue pushing those values and helping the next generation believe in them and support them and carry them on as well. It was a wonderful speech. Yeah, he's a great speaker, and he was in the House of Commons and then the House of Lords. And he's currently a Lord. And I was able to meet him after his speech and talk with him, and it was wonderful. He had a lot of great things to say about Mississippi, the state of Mississippi, and the country in general. And he also writes pretty regularly as a columnist for the Washington Examiner. He's excellent things to say in there as well. But no, it was great to meet him. He was a very nice, intelligent, obviously individual. And it's great that he is so interested in the USA and our success just as much, I would say, as the UK and its success.
And he knew who you were, correct?
Yeah, he did. Just because I write for Examiner, not for any other reason. But he said he's seen my name in print because I've had columns and features in the magazine as well, and he said he said he recognized my name, and that was, of course, very exciting for me because it's the first time I met him and stuff. So,
Did you ask him about me at all?
I did not. That was going to be my next comment to him, but he had to rush away. I was like,
Oh.
oh, I was going to say something about John Daly. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always surprised. I'll be honest. So I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I am always surprised that people who I don't think would ever know who I am seem to. Judge Littig over at I did a principal's first thing.
Yeah.
He weirdly knew who I was, and I'm like, he doesn't follow me, he doesn't, but I thought he was just being polite at first, but then he would make some point about what I said on something. I'm like, what? How does this even happen? Because none of these people ever reach out to me except for these, anyway. But I just
But
thought
no,
that was interesting.
you're in the sphere, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
Bernard Goldberg, and then you have your books, and you love to share stuff on Twitter. So I don't think
Yeah.
that's not shocking at all.
Okay, I guess so. Maybe there's a lot of lurkers on Twitter that see my stuff that I'm not aware of. But yeah, so Kimberly, getting to something even funner, I think. So
Yes.
we as we both know, we've talked about this before. You cause a lot of needless controversy on social media. It gets people worked up. It frankly pushes some people over the edge. It causes a lot of chaos. And the other day, you said something that was so absurd, and frankly un-American. I'm just going to say that
Huh?
I had to ask you about it today. So this is
Yes.
a direct quote from you.
I know what you're going
And
to say.
I know you've made similar comments in the past, but you said, I don't like ice cream very much at all. It's overrated.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I
I mean,
can't
what, why,
I can't
how?
I can't get more clear than that. I don't like it. It's overrated. Everyone is so
How?
obsessed with ice cream. I don't know why. Everyone's like, "Oh, ice cream. I want it for dessert. Or ice cream. I want it in the summer. Give the children ice cream." It's cold and it's sweet and it melts and it
It
does
does
not.
melt. You're right
It
about that.
does. Yes, it does hardly anything for me. Pretty much nothing for me. When people are like, "Oh, the flavor of the ice cream is so good." I mean, at like even like gourmet ice cream, like the ice cream from the best places, the flavor isn't really like that fantastic. It's just, I mean, it's all cold and sweet, and the flavors aren't really very diverse or very deep or colorful or whatever you want to call it. So, no, I don't like it, doesn't do anything for me. I'd rather have a piece of cake or a scone, some sort of pastry. Heck, even like a donut would be better than a thing of ice cream. So when I say that, and anytime I share a food take on Twitter, people are like, "Oh, you've never had my grandma's something somethings." I don't want your grandma's recipe. I would
Everybody send your
still,
grandma's stuff to
I would,
Kimberly. That's what.
I would still not like your grandma's recipe. And they're like, "No, you've never had this." Well, I still wouldn't want it. I guarantee you, because ice cream does nothing for me. My husband likes ice cream. It's just okay. I mean, if I never had it again, I would be fine. So
Wow. Now, do you this deranged view that you have that you've just described?
yeah.
Do you take that out of your kids? Do they suffer? Do they get to eat ice cream?
Of course they get to eat ice cream.
Okay.
I'm not taking it away from any.
Okay.
Yes. No, yeah,
Okay.
I know you feel better about that. No,
Yeah.
I don't take ice cream away from my children. My youngest loves ice cream. The oldest, he's like okay with it, but he doesn't love it as much as the youngest. But yeah, they can get ice cream. I mean, I just like don't really want it. And people are so shocked by that. But it's like it's,
Because it's crazy. It's crazy talk, Kimberly. That's why they're shocked
I didn't
about it.
say
Everybody
like
likes ice cream.
is no, I don't. I mean, it's fine. It's not as great as I feel like there's a nostalgia attached to it. And people are like, I had ice cream when I was a kid, and so it's great as an adult. It's just okay. It's not that great.
See, so it's tough for me because I like ice cream quite a bit, but I don't eat it because I try to. I don't know if I have slow metabolism, but I'm always a little heavier than what I want to be, even though I do a lot of walking and hiking around and stuff. So I try to
So,
do like shift back and forth between the what's that called, part-time fasting or whatever,
intermittent
intermittent
fasting,
fasting,
yeah.
and then I do the keto stuff. And ice cream, from what I understand, is not keto friendly,
Mhm.
really. They do
So what?
have some sort of keto ice cream, but it's not the same. But
Probably,
I miss
yeah.
it.
It's probably even worse than normal ice cream, which is pretty amazing. But like if you eat ice cream, do you like vanilla? Because I feel like vanilla ice cream is just sad. Like
It's just sad.
if you're gonna get
No,
ice cream,
no. I think that's
maybe
what started this discussion because someone else said that they thought vanilla was quite good, and I agree. I think vanilla is quite. I would take it over straight vanilla over straight chocolate any day of the week.
well, it's a free country. You guys can eat your ice cream.
That's right.
Go ahead.
But I can't because I'm trying to watch my figure,
Well,
Kimberly.
when I say stuff about ice cream, people are like, "Good, more for me," and I'm like, "Yes, that's the point. More for you. I don't want it." So
Yeah.
it's not like you're not winning when you say more for you because I don't want it. Yes, more for you. That works for me. It's a great situation.
Okay, well, I guess I'll have to respect that. So, one final question. So, in preparation for today's podcast, I
Mhm.
asked people to give me some questions to ask you, and I didn't
You
get
have
very many.
zero
I would
questions.
take that personally if I were you, Kimberly.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't take it as people don't want to ask me questions. I feel like I've provided them with all the answers that they need
Mm.
for any question that they have. So that's why they don't provide any questions. So
Okay, well,
I'm not,
we'll go with that just
yeah, we'll go.
for the sake of your ego, Kimberly. We will say that's the reason. But no, we did get a good one, a pretty good one. It was from a person whose screen name is Captain Spooky. Um,
Yeah.
the good captain actually asked a question about captains. He said, "Everyone asks about Kirk and Picard. My question is Janeway or Cisco?" That's obviously a reference. Well, I should say obviously. To people like you and me, it's obvious, but it's a
Mhm.
reference to Star Trek and two of its spin-off series, Voyager and Deep Space Nine. So, Kimberly, what do you think? Who was the better captain between Janeway and Cisco?
Well, I will say of the Kirk and Picard, Picard wins, and I know that's probably terrible. I can't say that
Oh
because
no,
Kirk
that's all
is
right. That's all
the
right.
original captain. But while I do like Janeway and I don't hate Voyager like some people do, I do think Cisco was the better captain, especially with the space station that he had and was in charge of and everything with all the different personalities and like aliens coming in all the situations there. I think he was a very good leader in control of the chaos that happened often, and he was very good in charge of his own team. So yeah, I like Cisco better than Janeway. He's a great captain. And Deep Space Nine, I feel like people don't give it as much attention, but it is a phenomenal series. It really is.
So you're wrong. You're wrong on that answer, Kimberly. I
All
got
right.
to point that out. I'm sure you're surprised that I would find that your answer is
Oh,
wrong.
right.
But so first of all, yeah, it's clearly Captain Janeway was
Oh,
better. And first of all, I'm pretty sure just an argument for her. I'm pretty sure she had a deeper voice than Captain Cisco, which was very impressive because Cisco has a heck of a voice himself. So that alone
you're
that starts
probably
things
right.
off.
I
Yeah,
think she's a smoker though, so that's probably why.
no, that I think that's probably what it is too. But she actually, and you sort of touched on this. So she actually captained a moving vessel that actually
Yes.
went places and
Yeah.
explored things. While Cisco, he just kind of hung out, right? I mean, he just kind of sat there
Well,
and hung out with people in the bar, and
but no,
if I'm
he dealt with
remembering
a
that
lot more of
correctly.
people coming to the station. I mean, Janeway and the ship, they were off in the far reaches of the galaxy, and they didn't
Yes.
run into as many people as Cisco did. No, no, I mean, you're wrong. It's like ice cream. You're wrong about that too, but that's okay.
Well, so but also in Janeway's favor, so she got to, like I said, she got to fly around. She got to hang out with Seven of Nine, who was amazing on many levels. Uh,
Sure.
and she also had that hilarious hologram doctor that
I
would
love
would
the
would
doctor.
crack jokes. He was fun. So, but Cisco, his crew, he did not run a tight ship. His crew was not very impressive. It was just kind of people kind of hanging out again. He
No,
had a little
it was
shapeshifter
very.
guy. Half the
Oh, come
people were
on.
from that sitcom called Benson. I don't know if you knew that,
Oh,
but uh,
gosh.
Worf came on later, so that's good. I think I had probably stopped watching it by then. But yeah, it was not. He did not surround himself with the best and brightest people, and I think we need to come to terms with that.
Well, we can agree to disagree, John Daly. We can.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm on Team Janeway, and
That's
I
fine.
think Cisco did improve when he shaved his head. I think that improved his
Oh
overall
yeah,
look.
yeah. And I will just say I'm shocked that you're taking the opposite position from me because you
Who
do
would
like
have guessed? Who would?
all
It comes naturally on things on pop
it
culture. On
does.
politics, we share a lot in common. Every now and then, we'll have a little bit of a disagreement on something. On
Yeah.
pop culture, it's not in common at all. I will say though, so Kimberly, I'll give you credit for this. I believe one of your very favorite movies is also one of my very favorite
I
movies.
feel like this is not going to be true.
No Country for Old Men.
Oh no, I love that movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes. So I was being serious with that, but that is a fantastic movie. I love the Coen brothers. They put out so many
Mhm.
good films, and yeah, whenever I see you comment on that, I'm like, okay, that's one where we can come together on pop culture, and that's a big one. So I will give
Yeah.
you credit for that.
I mean, it's not an easy watch. And the last time I said something about it, people were like, "That's a depressing movie. It's not happy." Like, did you think it was a romantic comedy? Like, no country, like you're not getting a comedy. It's pretty like it's disquieting, and the ending is a little difficult. But it's a really well done movie. It's hard to watch, but it's really well done.
Yeah, and it's based on the Cormac McCarthy novel of the same
Yeah.
name. And if
Hmm.
people familiar with that author, I've read a number of his books. If you were thinking it was going to be sort of a happy feel good ending, you probably are not
No,
familiar with him at all. It's not really what he does.
no.
I think probably the most hopeful ending I've read in his books is The Road, and that's an apocalyptic thing where
I like that
it's
one
not
too.
it's not
Yeah.
a great ending. I mean, not a
No.
happy ending either. So. Um,
Yeah.
Oh well, it is what it is. Well, Kimberly, I've taken up a lot of your time. I think we've been going about an hour on here, so I want to thank you for coming on to the Daily Express. It's always great having you on. As I mentioned up top, people can read your columns over at the Washington Examiner and the Magnolia Tribune. Is there anything else you'd like to promote? You have another feature coming up, don't you?
I do. I'm writing another feature for Examiner magazine on the thing called the Mississippi Miracle, which was the rise in fourth grade reading, state reading levels, I guess, among the fourth graders in the state. The Mississippi, I think, was dead last when it came to that, but they have jumped now to, I think, seventh in the country because of the different changes they've made across the board with education and just the requirements they have. So I'm really, really excited to have that one out.
Yeah, I'm excited to read that because you don't really hear that many big success stories in American education these days.
Yeah,
You see
yeah,
a lot of graphs that are always sort of on the decline in just about
yeah.
every area. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's great. I'm interested to learn more about that. I know David French was talking about that this morning on Twitter, but yeah,
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to that. And that's gonna be is that gonna if that's gonna be in the print version or just is the online version or
Well,
both
the,
or both?
it'll be in the print version, and then the online link will be available as well. Yeah. Hmm.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Kimberly, thanks again. Always a pleasure. And I'm sure we'll have you back here on the Daily Express podcast. You're a favorite of everybody, of all the legions of listeners I have. Everybody's all, when are you going to have Kimberly back on? And
Well, thank you for having me on again. I always enjoy it, even though you razz me about things like ice cream.
yeah, well, I got to do it. It's who I am. It's just what I stand for. So, Kimberly, have a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you.